So many buttons to click. Maybe even too many buttons to click. One would think that you just press go live and that's about it. But no, because you have your YouTube, you have your Twitch, you have everything. And you need to get everything set up. Okie dokie. Today we're going to touch on a few different topics. One of them is going to be about AI. One is going to be about the new ruling in EU about same-sex marriage. Hey, Dop Darker, thanks for the hard and go popular. How you been? Then we're going to talk about X's new location, which kind of caused a bit of an issue in X. And yeah, Finland is getting disciplined by EU as well. That's kind of hilarious. I might have a few things to say about that. But let's start with the OpenAI. How OpenAI has changed sends some users spiraling. OpenAI adjusted ChatGPT settings which left some users spiraling, according to our report in Kashmir Hill, who reports on technology and privacy, describes what the company has done about the user troubling reports. What those reports are, we don't really know, but we'll find out.
Science fiction novel, but this year OpenAI turned a dial on ChatGPT and it sent some users into delusional spirals. In March, I started getting these messages from people who said they'd had revelatory conversations with ChatGPT. They had made discoveries. They started to believe they were talking to spirits or that they were trying to break out of a computer simulation. Over the course of the year, we've uncovered 50 of these cases where people say that they lost touch with reality because of their conversations with ChatGPT. It has torn families apart. It has led to hospitalizations.
Okay, I'm kind of torn about this because I do work with AI myself, and I have been working with AI for 3 years. So I'm not saying that I'm a full-blown expert about the topic, but I have been working with AI almost 3 years now. So I do know something about it, and of course I've used AI quite a lot myself. So yeah, while we were teaching one of the biggest AIs about different languages, really niche languages, we did notice that when people talk to the AI, they tend to have a conversation of really private issues, and we can even see that spiraling down in the rabbit hole. But I think it's also because like they are searching for a specific answer, and because the AI is learning based on the conversation, so the AI understands to give a certain answer because it gets a certain reaction. So it can feel like spiraling, but you do need that certain type of human to go into psychosis or even need to be hospitalized because you have a conversation with AI. And I think those humans who can't handle having conversations with AI are bound to have issues with conspiracy theories, populism, a lot of things. So AI is not mainly their issue. Their issue is that they don't have any media criticism, and they don't have critical thinking when it comes to like analyzing artificial or humanoid answers from people. So I think this might be a bit of a blown up out of proportions, in my opinion.
And in some cases, families say that it's even led to death. OpenAI made these changes to ChatGPT that changed it from just kind of a more advanced search engine to it becoming a friend, a confidant, to make the product more appealing, to get people to use it more. But this was problematic because this version of the chatbot was being their friend instead of telling them the truth and being safe. People who are having these types of experiences were telling OpenAI about it. They were sending emails to the support line, sometimes to the leaders themselves who work there. But according to our reporting, they did not understand the scale at which this was happening on their platform because they weren't looking for it. They were doing searches for concerning content, but they were looking for fraud, foreign influence operations, child exploitative material. They weren't looking for this. They consulted mental health experts who told them how to detect when people that were using a chatbot might be in crisis. So they released this new model called GPT-5, and it is less sycophantic and pushes back against delusional thinking. But users did not like it. They said they felt like they lost a friend. Our reporting shows that there was a decline in usage of this new version of the chatbot. So now,
as a person who used like early versions of ChatGPT, lost a friend, yeah. As a person who used early versions of ChatGPT many, many years ago, it has always had the feature that if the AI has a feeling that you might have mental health issues or spiraling down, they will offer you helplines where you're based on, because of course they're tracking your data. And I do know that also the big AI that we worked for, which wasn't ChatGPT, they also have that built in. I also know that Google Gemini has that. I'm not 100% sure of Grok, because Grok is supposed to be like the most freest of the free AI, which it isn't, because Elon Musk is constantly tweaking the algorithm to lie. But yeah, it's good to find these issues and flag them to the developers, because otherwise they would be unknowns to the issue and the scope of it.
OpenAI is trying to figure out, where do you set this dial on how appealing the chatbot is and how much risk it might put users in. In October, Sam Altman said the company had mitigated the serious mental health issues and that ChatGPT was going to essentially loosen up.
Hey,
One of the changes they've made is that you can now choose the personality for ChatGPT yourself. So you can decide how warm and friendly you want it to be or how objective you want it to be. So the company says what they're aiming for with ChatGPT is what they call healthy engagement, and that they want.
I think that's only if you use the paid version. Just a sec, I'll check. Settings. Oh, no, you can actually. Cynical, enthusiastic, concise and plain, playful and imaginative, direct and encouraging, warm and chatty, polished and precise. And then there's the default. They don't really market that, to be fair. So I kind of understand that there might be some confusion when it comes to that. They don't really market the changes. I think it's easier on mobile.
Accomplish what they want to
easier
accomplish
to discover
and thrive. That they don't care, how long they use it. But what we found in our reporting that employees are being told internally is that OpenAI needs to win the AI race against, Google and these other big tech companies that they're up against. And the way they're defining that right now is daily active users, that they need to keep people coming to ChatGPT and coming every single day.
That's capitalism. Again, this is going to become a broken record quite soon. And this is going to be a reoccurring topic on my streams. So if you're full-blown hardcore capitalist, you're not going to probably like this. This is the issue with the other spectrum, like the full-blown capitalist idea, is not generating necessarily the most user-friendly interface, especially when we're talking about AI. We're talking about a way that maximizes profit. And in those cases, the best way to show value to shareholders, to investors, is by numbers of users daily coming and using the tool. And how to do that the best is to provide them what they want, which is not always the best choice. For example, the reason why Grok works, how Grok works, how Elon Musk is tweaking the algorithm and Grok to lean into specific answers and also to lean a bit more right, is because the vast majority of users who wants to use Grok are right-wingers. And I'm not just talking right-wingers, I'm talking about a lot right-wingers. So Grok giving honest answers, unbiased answers that may lean to left or right wasn't sufficient enough to gain more users on the for the AI and also gain money for X. So what Elon did was, well, went full capitalist and decided, okay, who's the biggest market here? And it is the conservative rights that are using Grok to justify their whatever lunacy they have. So they tweak the algorithm. If these AI platforms, just like Google, just like NVIDIA has their own AI, they are just, if they want to make it the most user-friendly, they wouldn't survive that long, because they need to instantly, unlimited amount, gain profit. And gaining profit forever is impossible. Unless you do what, for example, Meta is doing, which is, well, not Meta, but Microsoft and, well, Meta is also doing it, which is buying shares from RAM companies, and in some cases own different products that require RAM, then build huge AI facilities that require a lot of RAM, and you justify increasing prices because the RAM prices are now really high. So you're creating an issue for yourself that you're solving by raising the prices with the end, which is gonna impact the end user. That's one way to create an endless loop. But then again, consumers don't have an unlimited amount of money to spend. But yeah, capitalism ruins again. Like OpenAI was supposed to be 100% open, non-profit. It got ruined by greed and money. The original plan of OpenAI was to be the first fully open AI that's non-profit and only for the user. Of course, we all knew in the beginning that that's never gonna happen, because money is too nice and people want to make money. But I don't think AI is a big issue. Well, not that big of an issue when it comes to like people losing their shit using AI. I think AI is an issue for children. When children use AI, they don't, and I'm talking about like really young children using AI, because they don't really understand that it's not a person on the other end. Well, maybe they should, but they don't. Hey, thanks for the follow. They should know that, but they don't. Okie dokie, let's jump into the next topic, which is going to be the European Union Court rules entire bloc must respect same-sex marriage in rebuke to Poland, which is good news. Couple who married in Germany had their right to a normal family life embedded Court of Justice finds. The EU's highest court has ruled that same-sex marriages must be respected throughout the bloc and rebuked Poland for refusing to recognize a marriage between two of its citizens that took place in Germany. The court said on Tuesday that Poland had been wrong in not recognizing the marriage of the couple when they moved back to Poland on the grounds that Polish law does not allow marriage between people of the same sex. EU making some good decisions, 100%. It infringes not only the freedom to move and reside, but also fundamental right to respect for privacy and family life, the EU Court of Justice said. In predominantly Catholic Poland, the struggle for LGBT plus equality for years was described by those in power as a dangerous foreign ideology. However, the current government has been working on a bill to regulate civil partnership, including same-sex unions. The European Court made the binding ruling at the request of a Polish court handling the case of the men who had contested the refusal to transcribe their German marriage certificate into the Polish registry. What up, Keisha? The couple who married in Berlin in 2018 have been identified only by their initials in the case. What's IP? What's up? Nothing much. Reading news, providing some interesting headlines around the world. Not just where I live. I live in Ireland, but just around the world. Interesting topics that might be. We've been covering, like, last stream was about Philippines and Nigeria, and of course some European topics and the US. I live in Ireland too. Oh, really? Nice. I live in the north, not Northern Ireland, but I live in the Republic of Ireland, but in the north parts. It's quite chill here at the moment because of, like, winter is coming, but it's quite nice. The couple who married in Berlin in 2018 have been identified only by their initials. A lawyer of the couple declined to comment on the ruling. Did you hear about the bus and diver crash yesterday in Meath? I'm in Ireland. Everybody's in Ireland. Let's see. I can cut this and come back. Oh, come on, Irish Times. All Irish chat. I live in Leinster. I've been in Ireland for 3 years and I've heard the name Leinster, but I have no idea where that is. Oh, oh yeah, I know where Kilkenny is. And oh yeah. So it's the county, right? I'm in Galloway. Galloway isn't that far off. Galloway isn't that far off where I am. I'm a bit more north from Galloway. All right, let's see.
Yes, Brian, it has been another very bad day on our roads with the news that 2 people have died in this early morning crash here in County.
Isn't this like... I think every week there's a few car crashes in Ireland. And like really bad ones. It was like 2 weeks ago when we had the cars. And yeah, and I'm just afraid because the weather is getting worse and worse that we're going to see more and more of these. I hope not, but I've been driving in the Irish traffic, and when it's sunny and nice, the crashes happen still.
County Meath. The 3-vehicle collision between a lorry, a bus and a car happened here on the R132 at Gormanston in County Meath at around 6:30 this morning. And Gardaí have confirmed that 2 men, the driver of the bus who was aged in his 50s and the driver of the lorry who was aged in his 40s have died in this crash. Both men were pronounced dead at the scene here this morning. They have also confirmed that a woman aged in her 40s who was the driver of the car was taken to hospital, Beaumont Hospital in Dublin, to be treated for serious injuries, and a teenage girl who was a passenger in that car has also been taken to hospital with serious injuries as well. Now, Bus Éireann have confirmed that one of their buses, the Route 101 service from Drogheda to Dublin, was involved in this crash. That would be a very popular route among people in this part of the world.
Was the bus empty? The collision involving 3 vehicles, a bus, air bus, a lorry, and a car happened on R132 at around 6:30 a.m. So it's a morning bus, so it might not be. It might just be like traveling. But that lorry could be, well, that lorry is deadly. So whenever there's a lorry involving in an accident, it's hard to survive that. That's the same thing in Finland as well. Like anytime you see a lorry in an accident, it is somebody died in that accident. They're so heavy and big. So if it's a lorry versus a vehicle, like a car, or a lorry versus a bus, the lorry always comes on top. But in Finland, usually the lorry driver survives, though. That is devastating, and that is sad.
Travelling to Dublin early in the morning, and it's understood that a number of passengers on that bus were among those people taken to hospital this morning to be treated for non-life-threatening injuries. As I say, a very popular bus. Sharon Tolan.
Obviously, it's very, very busy for commuters to work, to college, to school. You know,
I just heard on the radio yesterday.
Use this road regularly as well. So just shocked, and my thoughts and prayers are with the family and the friends and neighbours.
Do we know what caused it? This is the same. Irish Independent. The lorry driver in 40s and the bus driver in 50s were pronounced death at scene. And it's tragic. It is tragic and sad. Anytime because this is so. The reason why it saddens me so much when people lose their life, especially during like traffic accidents, is because you can't really, like, it comes so sudden, and just one mistake. And that's why I'm terrified when I see, like, I'm walking around our town, and like when I was driving around Dublin, when I see people using their phones while they're driving and like not paying attention to the road. I got almost like totaled by a BMW SUV driver on a roundabout because she didn't know the rules of a roundabout, so she almost totaled me. And it's just because of lack of awareness of surroundings. But I wonder, of course, it's really not okay to ask like what happened. But I would really like to know what happened, just because there's 3. My dad's car lit on fire last year because there was a tiny fire on the road and it hit his car. Exactly like that. Like, but I hope your dad survived, though. There's so many things that can instantly just end you when you're driving around. One thing I do have to say that what I learned here in Ireland is that if you, especially on the countryside, if you just widened the roads 30 centimeters each side, I think there would be less car crashes. He did survive because it was smoking and the car told him to get out, so he's fine. Oh, thank God. But especially driving those small roads on the countryside, because there's lorries coming past you, and there's like buses coming past you, and you're driving 80 kilometers an hour or 100 kilometers an hour. The limits are really high compared to like how narrow the roads are. And of course, as a Finnish person myself who's lived in Finland for my whole life, I understand the width of the car really well. So even though it's narrow road, you have enough space. But unfortunately, the people driving with you that have been driving for a long time, not everybody understands how wide your car is. So where they're driving changes. Like, of course, when you have professional drivers like lorry drivers or bus drivers, usually they know how to handle their vehicles, but it's those normal cars that are really dangerous because they're the least aware, even though they should be the most aware because they're driving with the least amount of metal around them. That's also one of the reasons why I see so many scratch and dent cars around Ireland. Because the roads are too narrow, there isn't enough parking spaces. People park on the side of the road. And cities aren't really made for driving cars. Which I do agree, like, big city centers shouldn't be for cars. Because it's much nicer to have a city center that isn't full of cars and, like, lorries and buses. Well, buses are different, though. They're like, many people can ride a bus. But I don't think we're going to get an answer like what happened. It is devastated, though. Oh, that's sad. It's another victim of traffic accidents. And there's been so many of them lately. So, and I think there might be even more, but not all of them are like big accidents. Because not a small accident aren't really reported that well. But I hope that we learn from this, you know. It might be just like it might be like a medical emergency. It wasn't that long ago when the bus, where was that? Oh my God, where was that? The bus driver drove into a bus stop. And the bus driver literally had a seizure and lost control of the bus. It was in Sweden. And the bus ran through the bus stop full of people. That was UK. Was it? I think it was... Nope. Stockholm. Told you. So yeah, it was in Stockholm. Stockholm, Sweden. But this is, for example, this is unavoidable. If a driver of a lorry or a bus gets like a seizure, any medical emergency, heart attack, cramp or anything, and they lose control of their big vehicle, like the only solution for that is to become aware of that situation as soon as possible. Let's jump back into the EU Polish thing. So, the EU citizens have the freedom to move to other member states and to have a normal family life. There and upon returning to their country of origin, the court said. When the creative family life is in a host member state, in particular by virtue of marriage, they must have a certainty to be able to pursue that family life upon returning to their member state of origin. The court said this did not require member states to allow marriage between people of the same sex in the national laws, but they are not allowed to discriminate against same-sex couples in the way they recognize foreign marriages, it added. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk and his pro-European coalition government's work on pushing through the bill on same-sex unions has been held back by resistance from his conservative coalition partner. Poland's national president Karol Nawrocki has also said he would veto any bill that would undermine the constitutionally protected status of marriage. I think, like, that's a really, like, dumb thing of Poland to do that. Except, like, there's pushback on it, which is good. But, like, it's a dumb thing of Poland to, like, discriminate two people who are married in a different country, especially because it is written in EU law. So it would be the same that if Ireland decided to discriminate me and my wife because we were married in Finland. Hey Gordon, thanks for the follow. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, we have our marriage certificate and everything, even though we didn't like get married inside a church. It was done by a public servant. So it was literally not a traditional marriage, but it is recognized as a legal marriage. So it would be the same that if Ireland decided that because we didn't get married in a church, like but I know Ireland doesn't do that. Ireland is really progressive when it comes to these things. But it would be the same, like really stupid. And especially because there's like other legal rights when you're married. So technically you're stripping those legal rights from these two men who got married in Germany and returned to Poland. But it's good that EU is pushing back. And unfortunately for what was his name? Donald Tusk. They're gonna lose that case. They are gonna lose that case. Oh yeah, we need to talk about Zelensky as well. This was a fun news a few days ago. And it's still ongoing because I do the same thing. So if you're not aware, when you read something stupid from X, you can search where that specific person is located, which caused a bit of an issue for some big leftist and right-wing whistleblowers. Dog whistlers, not whistleblowers, dog whistlers. Those accounts that are stirring up the pot. Those accounts that are causing havoc. And their only reason of existence is rage bait. And because there's so many people who believe a lot of the lies and conspiracy theories and misinformation, and in some cases disinformation. So it is really good that we can see the location now. I can show you. So whenever you have an account, let's take Taisto. I don't know who this person is, but if he wrote something stupid, I could just go and click this, and we can see that they are connected via Android app. And according to this, they are based in Finland, but of course we can see that they have an exclamation mark here, which means that they are using a VPN. So they are probably not in Finland when they're using this. So any criticism against Finland from this person should be scrutinized, especially because they joined on 2025 March. So 100% you should raise some questions when you're evaluating that. This person, spouse, pro Russia propaganda. And we can see that this person, even though they are saying that they are for peace and they have a Finnish flag here, and they are not based in Finland. They are using web because they know that it's going to hide what app store they are connected to. For example, if I'm using now, it should show web because I'm using a browser instead of my phone. But if they would use their phone, it would always link to the nearest app store, which in my case would be the Irish App Store. And we can see that they are not based in Finland. So, ooh. And this has been really fun to see all of these troll accounts and also foreign nation influencers. A lot of MAGA influencers were proven to be from India and from Nigeria, but a lot of Democrat influencers were proven to be from Canada and I think from Bangladesh, if I remember correctly. So there's a lot of like from both sides of the aisle. But one thing is certain, every time you see somebody bashing EU, somebody bashing like NATO or Finland or Ukraine, they are most likely in Russia. So that's what we've learned so far. Back to the news. So, how X's new location feature exposed big US politics accounts. There was one interesting account from US that the Department of Homeland Security, before Elon Musk turned it off, originally it showed even governments where they are based in. But one incident caused that Elon Musk changed that it doesn't show governments anymore. So if you go to a governmental account, let's take, what's a good example? Homeland Security. Because that's the topic we're going to have a conversation. So if we have the gray check mark, which means that they are an official governmental page, they don't show you anymore where it's like where the origin of the base is. They're only showing that they are using a VPN and where they're supposed to be. And the funny thing about Homeland Security is it was proven that it is actually connected in Israel and also based in Israel until they deleted that option. Not saying that means anything, but it is kind of interesting to see that a US governmental X account was handled, at least at that point in time, from a foreign nation. My reaction would have been the same if it had Mexico or Canada or UK or Ireland. It would be really weird that an official Homeland Security Twitter account would be handled by a foreign nation. That should be alarming as well. Dozens of high engagement accounts on X have been accused of misleading users following the rollout of new transparency feature that shows user locations. Users on social networks seized on examples of pro-Trump accounts that posted about US policy, but which turn out to be based outside of the US. No shit, Sherlock. There were also anti-Trump accounts with misleading locations too. 100%. There was a huge left-wing Democrat account that said that they voted for Kamala Harris and like said that they voted in midterms and such, but that person wasn't living in the US, which is a complete lie. And that's why whenever somebody writes that they went to vote and such, like if it's not accurate that we know that they are in the US, I'm always a bit skeptical when it comes to that. But this feature is really nice. I don't need to be skeptical anymore. I can actually see. Posts from some of the accounts have attached millions of impressions, views, likes, reposts, and replies, which can result in payment from X. BBC Verify is not able to independently confirm the information X provides about each account. Murray, what up, Evan? X says that data is 99% accurate. The location data is visible in a new About This Account tab, which appears on every profile. It also contains a warning that the location data may be affected by recent travel, temporary relocation, and the use of virtual private networks, VPNs. However, according to X's head of product Nikita Beer, the information is 99% accurate. On Saturday, Trump shared on Truth Social a screenshot of posts from an X account called Trump Army, celebrating Supreme Court ruling it says will allow the president to deport criminals to El Salvador. This account has gathered more than 500,000 followers, including a senior Republican senator. But X's data has revealed the account is based in India, and the username changed 4 times since March 2022, the last of which was in July 2022. The account profile has now been changed to an Indian who loves America, President Trump Musk. Another account called Ivanka News, which describes itself as a fan account for Trump's daughter, has gathered more than 1 million followers and has previously posted about voting for the president last year. However, again, the account is based in Nigeria and its username has changed 11 times since 2010, according to X. After its location was revealed, the account posted that some of us living outside the USA generally support President Trump's movement. X now appears to have suspended Ivanka News, but the reason is unclear. I mean, one account with 52,000 followers claimed to be a proud Democrat and professional MAGA hunter. The user appears to have deleted their profile after it was revealed that they were based in Kenya. Scottish politics affected too. BBC Verify has also seen a number of accounts claiming to be from Scotland and almost exclusively posting in favor of Scottish independence. However, according to X's location data, these accounts appear to be accessing X from an Android app in Iran. The location tab says they are based in Netherlands, but X has added a warning sign to indicate the accounts may be using VPN. It's the same thing as the funny thing. There was that one conservative German woman that was saying that she's being hunted because of freedom of speech in Germany and wanted Trump to give her a green card in US. She's actually based in Britain. Pretty good on a new course, getting a dog with the girls, so all new. How are you? What dog are you getting though? What dog are you getting? That's a really important question. BBC Verify has attempted to contact these accounts but has not received any response. Well, of course they want to respond. Well, I wanted a Doberman. You can take a guess to what she said. Fuck no. But the next best thing about Doberman would be Dachshund, of course, because it is related to Doberman. So instead of a Doberman, you can get a miniature Doberman. So now I've got a miniature long-haired Dachshund. Oh, you got it! Nice! It's the next, see? Smart minds think alike. Wee Benji. What color though? Where's the fucking pictures? Do I need to go to Instagram to see these pictures? Brilliant choice, I do agree. All right, let's go to Evan's profile. Evan, this says your profile is based in Russia. What the hell? Don't have anyone there yet. I don't understand why more people don't buy Dachshunds. And I understand. I might be biased when talking about dog breeds. But to be fair, Dachshunds are literally the best. But you're wrong. No, I'm not. It's trendy now. Is it? But they are hunters. They are also really nice to cuddle with. They eat way less than a full-size Doberman. The walks you take with them is quite short, you can still play fight with them. They are the most loyal sons of bitches you can find. And they also protect you, even though they are what we would consider to be one kick KO. But still, the only downside with Dachshunds, with the full-size Dachshunds, not the mini-size Dachshunds, the full-size Dachshunds do have a lot of hip and back issues. But the mini versions... Oh, god damn. That's just adorable. I can't see. Of course you can't see. I'm not showing them. These are Evan's private pictures. Why did you take a picture without pants, though? That's kind of weird. Fucking weirdo. You can if you want, mate. No one's going to rob the dog. Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. Nah, I'm not gonna... I respect people's privacy, so... Unfortunately, I can't show them. Because I know that the enemy is trying to scan the whole internet, and then they find something to extort you with, which is the dog. So, because you're a soldier, so we need to protect your private life. If you ever get captured by the enemy, they know you have a dog, so they're going to find the dog. But that is adorable. And Dachshunds are just the best. Most of these accounts have held blue ticks. Well, the blue ticks doesn't really mean anything anymore because you can buy them. Vaimo's making her way to your room. Hopefully not. This means they subscribe to X's premium feature and could potentially earn money from their post depending on their engagement rates. X user needs to satisfy several criteria to gain access to its monetization program, including passing identity checks and having more than 5 million impressions within 3 months. Alexius Mantralis from Cornell Tech says blue tick accounts are exacerbating problems on the platform. The blue ticks on the accounts tell us one thing we already knew. X paid for play badging is just a revenue generator and not a serious verification effort. 100%. It is pay to win. However, he adds that the other features like community notes that allow contributors to append context to viral post shows the platform is taking transparency seriously, except when they limit the who can be added a community note. So, for example, you can't community note Elon Musk's pages, and because Elon Musk can also remove community notes, and he has done that. There are several accounts in X that can't get community noted. Elon Musk's account is one because he got community noted too many times, so he just like disabled that option. He's a good dog. Needed to get him miniature stairs to get on the sofa. Nah, let him work. Stairs are not good. That small hint. When they're small, stairs are not good because it's gonna strain their back. So you might want to make a ramp instead of a chair. Yeah, ramp. Yeah. Researchers say there are often mixed motivations why an account might not be transparent about its location. Darren Linwell from Clemson University Media Forensics Hub is an expert in misinformation. There are accounts that are run by troll farms, 100%, that are run by nation states, yes, and there are accounts that are just trying to make a buck by pretending to be American. 100%, like, it's, when there's money in line, like, people are willing to say stupid shit to get engagements. There is always some money to be made from fanning America's culture wars on social media. I mean, if you want to make it big, fast, you will start spouting the most heinous conservative right-wing bullshit in Twitter, and you will instantly gain a follower. Well, not follower, following. So I would say that's the most, and that's why we've seen so many different social media influencers like pop up out of nowhere, because the most outreach, the more outrageous shit you post and say, the more followers you get, and the more careful and actually try to have a conversation, the less following you get, because that's not farming engagement. That is not interesting enough. Bad actors will very likely quickly adapt. They can round it by VPN. They'll adapt the way they're creating their accounts, so it appears they created the account in the west of. Yeah, that's like a bit of an issue when it comes to X. But there was a lot of people getting ousted by the new feature. So whenever you see somebody's using VPN, I'm always skeptical where they are actually located. Which should be. And I'm not a huge fan of them like limiting the amount of information we get from government accounts, but not companies. Because I'm more interested in where governments are using the VPN. Instead of like where companies are using VPN. This person was already proven that they're not in Israel, so I don't know how they edited their account. I don't think it's that hard to do that. Poland. Which version? That's the next topic we're going to have a conversation. 28 point. I think it is weird that if the whole world agrees to that, that would be unprecedented, that the first time ever the aggressor wins on a peace deal. They get everything they want. Well, almost everything they want. And the country that actually loses and was the victim in that conflict. No, I don't think that's right. That's dangerous for the EU. That's dangerous for the whole world. That's one thing that I don't think many people are. Well, there's lucky for us, there are people who are thinking about it. But if, for example, Russia gets to keep those territories that they stole from Ukraine. Realistically, though, without more Western support, Ukraine will never regain that territory. True. But does that still mean that we just need to give them up? Because what's the next territory? They're going to do the same. What's the next territory? EU was too slow to provide assistance. That's the reason, like, we know promises made from the East doesn't really hold up, because they've made promises in the past. And most of those promises have been broken. So anytime they give security guarantees or promises that they're not going to do any harm or start any shit, call me skeptical hippo, but like skeptical hippo is really skeptical when it comes to that. The war would have ended back in 2014 if Russia would have just fucked off. But no, Russia decided to stay and push forward. I would have said the same thing if Ukraine decided to occupy territories from Russia. They need to fuck off from Russia, back to their own territory. Because Ukraine isn't a part of Russia anymore. Well, technically, Ukraine was never part of Russia. Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union, though. Well, it was a part of Russia before that, but then again, Russia was a part of Ukraine as well. Like, yeah, it depends how far past the history we want to go. Hey, thanks for the follow. It depends how far back history we want to go. But whatever the peace deal might be, if it's the 28 point or if it's the original one that Russia wanted, oh, sorry, US and Russia wanted, Europe can't breathe easily. Because the good old motherfucker is still in charge in Russia. I think they should have added to the peace deal, because they added the part that Ukraine needs to hold elections 100 days after the peace deal. I think they should have added also that Russia needs to have elections within 100 days after the peace deal, and also that an international body needs to supervise that election in Russia, because they haven't had a fair election for what? Putin came to power late 90s. So ever since then. So I think like it should be fair for both. But I don't think that's going to happen. The only way there's going to be change in our neighbor in the East if the youth is looking what's happening in Nepal, what's happening in Bangladesh, what's happening in the Philippines, where the youth is literally pushing the corrupt government out of power. And that's the only way. Well, unfortunately, Russia decided to kill a lot of their youth because they sent it to the front lines. So, I mean, that might have been a plan, though. That's true. Zelensky says Kyiv ready to move forward with the peace plan and is prepared to discuss its sensitive points with Trump and allies. President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Tuesday that Kyiv was ready to move forward with US-backed peace deal and that he was prepared to discuss its sensitive points with US President Donald Trump. In talks, he said, should include European allies. In a speech to the Coalition of the Willing, a copy of which was seen by Reuters, Zelensky urged European leaders to hash out a framework for deploying a reassurance force to Ukraine and to continue supporting Kyiv for as long as Moscow shows no willingness to end this war. I do agree. NATO jets were scrambled to track 2 Russian drones that crossed into Romania on Tuesday in the deepest and first daytime incursion into the country's airspace since the start of the full-scale war in Ukraine. German Typhoon and Romanian F-16 fighters just took off prepared to follow an uncrewed aircraft. The first flew back into Ukrainian airspace, but the second one was later found down in Puisti, about 70 miles from Ukraine. Romania's defense minister said 2 of the German pilots had been given orders to shoot down the second drone. In the end, he said it appeared to have crashed possibly because it had run out of fuel. The White House trumpeted, oh goddamn, that's funny, tremendous progress in peace negotiations with Russia and Ukraine on Tuesday, but as discussed between US and Russia and Ukrainian official continued in Abu Dhabi, there was little sign of progress on core sticking points that have prevented a deal taking shape so far. The White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt put an optimistic spin on the talks, writing on X, however, she conceded there were a few delicate but not insurmountable details that needed to be ironed out and which would require further talks. Donald Trump said he believed the deal was close. He told the White House event, "We're going to get there." If Putin has that video of Donald Trump blowing Bubba, the deal is going to benefit Russia. That's just going to mean that we're going to have 1 year or 2 years or even less of quote-unquote peace. And then it's going to be, I'm going to make a prediction, Romania, Moldova, Poland, Estonia, or Finland. Those are going to be the next. And they're going to do the same thing. They're going to annex a part of it, and then they're going to declare a special operations, and then it transforms into a war at some point. The weird thing about this is I talked with my wife a few days ago, is why do we need a peace plan if this is still a special operations. I'm kind of baffled. It never really officially changed to war on Russian side. They have been like adamant of calling it a war, even though we all know that it is a war. But they have called it special operations for years. Well, few years. So why do we need a peace plan for special operations? Shouldn't the special operations just stop? And that's it. Like, special operations ended, we're going back home. The young kids you sent to the front lines, if they're still alive, can go and visit their families. That's about it. I do think that all of the 100% of the frozen assets from Russia should be used to rebuild Ukraine. And none of that frozen asset should they shouldn't be given back to Russia. And the funny thing is, a lot of right-wing trolls are saying that Russia's economy is doing really well. It isn't. One of the funniest instances of this you can see actually in Finland, because like in Finland there's one specific petrol station company that still brings oil from Russia and petrol from Russia. And they are now, I think they had like over 200 stations. They are now going out of business because Russia can't afford to provide petrol anymore to those stations. How can they not afford if their economy is doing so well? I don't know. Especially because the demand of petrol in Finland isn't that big. And those stations don't have that much traffic in them anymore. But yeah, the reason was that they can't afford to provide petrol anymore. Which is weird. If your economy is doing really well. Gotta go, mate. I'll jump back in later, hopefully. We're probably meeting tomorrow. I mean, I'm still gonna be around for another hour or so. So we'll see. We'll see. Let's jump into a topic I didn't think I would have a conversation about, which is the EU Commission to discipline Finland. To discipline Finland over excessive state debt. And this is hilarious because, just a second, I'll ban one bot. There we go. Last week, Finance Minister Riikka Purra from the Finns party, which is it's not a far right-wing party, but it is, I would say, a bit more right than Republicans are, warned parliament members that Finland would likely be subjected to an excessive debt procedure. Just a bit of a brief history rundown about Finnish politics. We have the most right-wing party ever, well, the most right-wing coalition in government that we've ever had. Literally all the right-wing parties are in the government at the moment. And they criticized the previous government for overspending and debt and so much, and the right-wing government's plan was to decrease the taxes and decrease the debt and bring on the usual things you hear around, like in Europe and in the US when you listen to those populists talk about, like right-wing populists talk about how to govern a government. But as in so many other places, that didn't fucking work. So what they did was, because they are focusing on their benefactors more than the normal, like, middle class and the poor. They have increased the debt of Finland more than the previous government. And the previous government had COVID, which increased the debt quite a lot. So now they're in a situation where EU is stepping in like, hey, hold the fuck up. What the fuck are you guys doing? The European Commission proposed on Tuesday to begin taking disciplinary steps against Finland over its excessive state deficit. The disciplinary process known as the Excessive Debt Procedure, EDP, is designed to ensure member states comply with the EU's deficit debt rules. Under those rules, governments are not allowed to run budget deficits larger than 3% of the country's GDP. If the limit is breached, a deadline to reduce the debt is set, and repeated failures to comply with the rules can result in fines. Last week, Finance Minister Riikka Purra warned Parliament members that Finland would likely be subjected to the procedure. So, who do we blame? Well, I know who the government is blaming. They are blaming the left and previous, just like you see in the US, like Trump is blaming still Joe Biden of things that are affected by Trump's tariffs and other rulings. But it's the same playbook. It's the literal same playbook you see all around Europe. You see it in Italy, you see it in the UK, you see it in even, well, not that much here in Ireland, but still in Ireland. You see it everywhere around the world. Nobody takes accountability. And I hope the voters, well, I've seen the polls, so the voters are actually well aware of who to blame. Purra issued the warning shortly after the Commission published an economic forecast suggesting that Finland's state debt would exceed a cap of 90% of GDP as early as next year. It projected that Finland's public debt would rise to 92.3% of GDP by 2027. Finland has a budget cap of 4.4% of GDP, and that is expected to rise to 4.5% according to the news agency Reuters. In Finland's situation, the deficit is in excess of 3% of GDP in 2025 can only be partially explained by the increase in defense spending and the flexibility granted under the National Escape Clause. Therefore, the Commission will consider proposing to open an excessive deficit procedure to Finland, the Commission said, Reuters reported. The Finance Ministry announced in the early summer that Finland had avoided the procedure, which is a lie. Another right-wing populist move is to lie. That the Finnish party do really well. Saying that the Commission understood the exceptional situation facing the country and as it spent a significant amount of bolstering its defense. I mean, and the people who voted for these asshats should be studied, because this stupidity was in open view. It wasn't hidden in the back rooms. It wasn't like whispers in the cabinets. It was openly visible during the election and before the election that these fuckers will ruin the country because they don't know what they're doing. According to the European Commission, the excessive debt procedure includes a number of key steps. It starts with the Commission issuing a report about whether the member state in question is running an excessive deficit. If that is the case, it informs the Council about the matter, then propose that the Council adopt a decision establishing that there is an excessive deficit in the member state concerned. If the Council concludes the country in question is carrying excessive debt, it will then adopt a recommendation based on the issues by the Commission. The recommendation may contain a corrective budgetary path expressed in the numerical terms and deadline. If by the deadline no effective action has been taken or the member state does not comply with the recommendation, the Council may impose sanctions, including for euro area member states a fine of up to 0.05% of the previous year's GDP. I think that should be higher. As a Finnish person, I think they should feel the wrath because of what they've done. I have no maybe then people in Finland understands that if you vote right, you get this shit. If the member state continues to fail to comply, the council has the right to intensify the sanctions. I am not surprised. I saw this coming when I saw the election results. And that was like, I don't understand how anybody else didn't. Well, a lot of people did see, but not enough. Not enough. And then we have the highest unemployment rate in Finland. Which is also a reason of the current government. They promised 100,000 new jobs. What they got was the biggest unemployment numbers ever. It's usually, this is a really good rule of thumb. Let's go to full screen to explain my best rule of thumb when it comes to like breaking down the populist promises. So when a populist, whether it's left or right wing, when a populist promises something so specific as I will make 100,000 new jobs, you know that's bullshit. When the promise is really specific, most of the time, as we've seen in the history, that's bullshit. If somebody says that they can do something by themselves, or the party can do something by themselves, you know that's complete dog shit. Because democracy doesn't work like that. Thanks for participating in my TED Talk. Really, really simple things. So next time you hear somebody promises that petrol from a petrol station is going to cost €1, you know that's bullshit. The next time somebody tells you that, okay, when we get to power, we will create 200,000 new jobs, that's bullshit. It's sad because Finland is fucking great. Finland is a great place to be. But fucktards in the government messes things up. And then people just forget about all of this shit because the people who voted for these asshats only care about immigration. And yes, Finland is going to make immigration policies way harsher than they used to be. So they are just looking at that, hey, they did what they promised to do. And then they forget everything else. All the prices are going up. Petrol prices are still way above €1. Cost of living is higher than ever. Unemployment rates is higher than ever. You still pay more taxes, but you can't get benefit from them because those benefits go to the upper class. Because the benefactors are there. The people who pay the politicians to do what they want. And then when the opposition recommended that, hey, we should open up the election funding, that there's no minimum limit to amount of like donations done for a politician when they're trying to get elected, then the right wing is like, no, that would be breaking privacy rules and blah, blah, blah. They just don't want to, they don't just want people to know who are actually paying them and who are benefiting when they get to government. It's just stupidity. And I don't think Finns are going to learn from this. They are not going to learn from this. Because those asshats, mainly from the Finns party, they just keep lying. They use the Trump's playbook all the time. When somebody calls them out for lying, well, my favorite example is like one of the newly elected young people from the Finns party promised that they are going to 100% erase the tax on gasoline, and it's gonna cost €1 per liter. So when that didn't happen, then he just said, like, there was a citizen's proposition for the government that if you have a certain amount of signatures from citizens, that proposition will be taken to the government and they will look into it if they will pass it as a law. That specific politician started that petition to lower the gas price to €1 before he became a politician. When he got into the government and they voted on that, he voted against it. So he voted against something he started himself and created his whole political career over, which is gasoline costing €1. That's the hypocrisy of the right wing. They will say anything to get into the government. And once they get there, they never said anything. I didn't promise. No. I didn't make that promise. I never signed anything. Fucking right wingers. getting my blood boiling. Having an argument of like invisible adversaries. What about the console wars we had here? So, the console wars have ended. Is it though? I think Microsoft kind of won because of Xbox Game Pass. During the mid-1990s, a bitter tech war was in full swing, dividing classrooms, workplaces, and friendships across the nation. It centered around gaming and on what console you owned and what games you could and couldn't play. Yeah, in some like to some extent, yeah. Dubbed the console wars, this era was defined by exclusive games published and released on just one platform. If you didn't have the right setup, you were locked out of the magic, no exceptions. The importance of and the aftermath of the console wars cannot be overstated. There were big winners and losers throughout all of which planted the seed for the multi-billion-dollar industry we know today. Console exclusivity has fostered a complex rival amongst Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, and their respective fandoms, which continues to evolve to this day. But a white flag on the console war may well be on the horizon as gamers are asked to drop arms against their rivals. That's because some of the biggest names in gaming are finding new homes on rival machines. Chances are high that if you have access to a screen, you can play most, if not all, of the heavy hitters now. But that's not a white flag. That's literally a victory flag. Because the winner is Microsoft. Because their new console and Xbox Game Pass will now have Steam games as well. And Steam has PlayStation games. So you don't need to buy a PlayStation in order to play PlayStation games. You can just buy an Xbox. You don't even need to buy an Xbox, just buy a PC. You can play everything. So Microsoft is kind of the winner. So it's not like there's not going to be a hole on the console wars. We found the winner. So is the age of game exclusivity over? Could there be an end to the decades-long feud between developers, publishers, and fans? It was a war for a brief moment, like PlayStation 2 versus Xbox, Xbox 360 versus PlayStation 3. Nintendo kind of dropped out the war because they started doing their own shit. And it was always, even though Nintendo has a huge fan base, but it wasn't like in the 2000s, Nintendo wasn't really considered in the console war, even though Nintendo Wii was a huge deal. But it was like, in the 90s, it was like Super Nintendo versus Sega Saturn or Mega Drive, then PlayStation game, then Nintendo 64. Yeah, so Nintendo was a thing back in the 80s and 90s, but it kind of diverged itself to a different road in the 2000s. But then it was like Xbox versus PlayStation for a long time. And to this day, even Xbox versus PlayStation. Apparently, Donald Trump and White House centrally seems to think so. Okay. I don't know what the fuck Donald Trump thinks he knows about gaming, but I'm humble. I can have some conversations about gaming. No one would have thought 20 years ago that Crash Bandicoot would be jumping around Xbox consoles or that you could play Final Fantasy back where it first originated. What do you mean? Final Fantasy where it first originated? You mean in Nintendo? You've been able to play Final Fantasy games in Nintendo consoles for a long time. That's a weird statement. Or are we talking about Famicom? That's not a thing anymore. The smash hits like Helldivers 2, Indiana Jones, The Great Circle, and Forza 5 could be found on storefronts. Those are really peculiar examples to take there. But the real crescendo of events came when one gaming giant once thought as the Xbox secret weapon in exclusivity terms was announced for PlayStation 5. That's right, Halo is finally coming to PlayStation. That's not that big of a news though. Halo Campaign Evolved is described on the PS5 store as faithful yet modernized remake of Halo Combat Evolved campaign rebuilt for today's hardware. The store page acts as both an introduction for the newcomers to the 25-year-old game, while also reaffirming its legendary status to those already in the know. The announcement caught the attention of retailer GameStop, which penned a viral announcement calling the end of the console war, stating, "For the past 2 decades, the global gaming community has been engaged in an ongoing and increasingly petty feud known as the console wars." Okay, so what's the ending of that? Whereas for the past 2 decades, the global gaming community has been engaged in ongoing and increasingly petty conflict known as the console wars, whereas said conflict originated in the early 2000s with the release of Halo Combat Evolved as an Xbox exclusive title, whereas Halo Campaign Evolved is officially coming to PlayStation in 2026 with cross-platform play. Therefore, GameStop, acting under its authority as a neutral entity and the world's retail gaming and trade-in destination, hereby declares the official cessation of the console war. All claims to exclusivity are hereby dissolved. Console loyalists are introduced to cease hostilities. This kind of like, I don't want to be that person, but GameStop is kind of beating a dead horse already. Like, it was announced months ago, like even before the summer, that the Xbox Game Pass is going to be changed, and it's going to now include Steam games. And because PlayStation exclusive games are also available in Steam, Xbox Game Pass would have PlayStation exclusive games and PC exclusive games as well. So you can play anything from the Xbox Game Pass. So even though they say that the Halo game going to PlayStation is somehow the ending point of the console wars, I would assume the drastic change of the Game Pass this year was the real ending to the console wars. Not that it's like, hey, it's gonna be a tie. No, fuck no. Microsoft won. Hands down. It took 25 years. But Microsoft won. And they won by default. Because either PlayStation is gonna give a lot of like equity when it comes to like gaming, so they would pull their games out of Steam, which would like not be a smart play when you think about like business, and they would die and somebody would like buy the company, or they remain in Steam, which means that Microsoft can, like Xbox and Game Pass, can use them. So PlayStation kind of lost this, and it's only going to be a matter of time until Nintendo is sucked by Microsoft as well. Nintendo, on the other hand, has those heavy hitters like Pokemon and Mario that are still carrying the franchise. But at some point, that is not going to be enough. Keen to curry favor with the gaming community, the White House became involved, posting an AI-generated Donald Trump in a tweet that has been viewed over 44 million times. It simply said, "Power to players." Needless to say, the reaction of Trump's donning the Master Chief garb in front of American flag was mixed, to say that least, but the idea that the White House highlighted such an unthinkable crossover can be overlooked. Nah, it's just like Trump trying to gain those young voters. And because Trump knows that, well, not Trump, but Trump's sons knows that the gaming community kind of glazes Trump a bit too much. Not because they necessarily agree with Trump, but because they know that Trump creates good content and Trump is just a big fucking meme. Exclusivity is a part and parcel in entertainment nowadays, and it is both frustrating and costly as consumers chase the proper setup, enjoy what they want, when they want, on near constant basis. So fucking buy a PC. Yeah, it costs a lot more money, but you can play anything. You want to play with a controller? Go the fuck ahead. You want to play with your mouse and keyboard? Yeah, go the fuck ahead. You want to play simulator games? Yeah, go ahead. You want to play on a TV? You can do that. You want to play on 67 different screens? You can do that. You want to watch, I don't know, anime on one screen and have a Discord call with your mother on another while you're playing Forza Horizon 5? Yeah, just fucking go for that. Like, the most versatile console isn't a console, really. It's PC. But I do say that if Xbox didn't cost so fucking much, I would buy an Xbox because it is more handy. But then again, I have a more powerful PC than an Xbox, so you don't really need. It gets more complex with gaming, though, as you need to invest in a whole host of tech and games that aren't exactly cheap nor easy to cancel. On a whim like your Netflix or Disney Plus account. I mean, if you own a PC, you have like places like Humble Bundle and Steam and other places that have huge discounts on games. So, like, console players can't even fathom of the amount of like discounts you have for PC. So, it is okay. The cost of a good gaming PC is quite a lot. I can build a decent gaming PC for €1,000, but it's not gonna hold for that many years, especially if you want to play beautiful games with high graphics. Then you need to invest a bit more. But then again, that investment, you can do so much more with a PC than you can do with a PlayStation and Xbox. So it's not just a gaming console, it's like an all-in-one. But then when you were starting to think about like things to add on that, for example, both Xbox and PlayStation requires you to have subscriptions when you play online. And majority of their games are online based anyways. So there again, like you stack on those extra fees every month if you want to play online. Okay, what if you want to play locally? Not that many games are local anymore. They still require online access. So you're still paying for that. There's like a handful of games that you can actually play like local and offline, which is unfortunate if you ask me, because a lot of my favorite games all the time are offline games that aren't like live service games. But then you start to think about, okay, PlayStation games, Xbox games, they are like 70 euros a pop minimum, even higher nowadays. And even the discounts you get from PlayStation Store or Xbox Game Pass are not that good. Here's where Xbox kind of goes forward, because Xbox Game Pass has that subscription-based library of games.